I've got clients that, and again, property developers come from all kinds of different backgrounds. There is no formal education you need to be a property developer. There is no there is no license that you need. Basically, if you've got access to equity, anyone can go and buy a property and be a property developer. And the problem is, because of that, a lot of people basically speculate, or they talk to a friend and their friend's gone and made some money out of a property development, or they've read a book or something, or they've seen some advertisements being promoted on Facebook or wherever. And then they think they can go and do it themselves because they think it's quite easy, because everyone makes money in property development, apparently. But so I've had clients that have come from, again, very different backgrounds, but the funny thing is that they don't often, and successful entrepreneurs in their own right, and they don't apply the same principles of their own business into the property development transactions. So where they might be quite thorough in terms of their own business, and if there was any business opportunity they were to take up. So say, for example, if they were going to do a merger and buy another company for $500, $1 million, the amount of due diligence that they would do on that company and that merger before they went and bought it would be quite extensive. They'd get their lawyers involved, the accountants involved, every specialist they know involved in terms of before they undertook that acquisition. Now, but the same entrepreneurs would just go out and buy a development site thinking that they're going to make money out of it because, they're, I suppose, from their perspective, they look at it and say, okay, the neighbours next door's built, 4 townhouses, so I'm going to be able to do the same on this block. In the roughly in the back of my head, I know that Metricon can go and build a house for $200,000, so I can probably build a townhouse for $150. Where in actual fact, you're probably going to be building a townhouse for $350. But these are I suppose the mindset a lot of people have when they go into property development, when they're quite green to it, that they don't use that business mindset going into property development. So I'd always encourage everyone, treat it like a business.
Yeah, especially when you're building property development, townhouses and apartment, it's a multi-million-dollar transaction, right?
Correct.
And you don't want to risk it because a lot of developers got burned in the past.
Correct.
Yeah.
I've even had another client that I can reel off about 1,000 examples of clients that have gone wrong, and particularly even just straight at acquisition stage. I had another client that went and bought a property at auction, and it already had permits approved for, I think it was 10 apartments. And it was down on Burwood Highway in Burwood, right near Deakin University. And I asked him straight out, I said, how did you come up with the price that you paid for that property at auction for? How did you work that out, whether that was going to be successful? And he said, well, I went to so many auctions and I kept on losing out. So I and other similar properties sold for the same amount in the area. So I just figured out that that's what I needed to pay for the site to win the property.
That's more of a gut feel transaction, and
it's a gut feel, but at the end of the day, there was no analysis on what the total costs of the development were going to be, what the end value of the product was going to be when it was going to be sold. So you could even work out whether it was even profitable to buy it at that point.
True.
So, and so again, when I went back and I went through the strategy with him and said, okay, this is how you buy property development. This is the fundamentals that you should have been looking at when you were purchasing it. Even if it does have a permit, you've got to make sure financially that
you can finance and inject the amount of equity required in the project and so on.
Correct. Now, I can tell you for a fact that developer bought that site 8 years ago. That site is still undeveloped on Burwood Highway. He's got to hang on to it for that many years for this thing to even make sense.
Just miss opportunity.
He can't resell it to anybody else because nobody else is going to pay that amount of money for it, particularly in this market when construction costs have gone even higher as well. But nobody is prepared to pay for him even anywhere near the value that he purchased that site for. So he's probably, just to even break even on it, he's probably going to have to hang on to that site for another 8 years, and then he might be able to break even on it, or maybe make a slight margin. But what was the opportunity cost of him hanging onto that property for essentially 16 years or 15 years before he's even going to be able to develop it? So again,
that's one simple mistake he didn't use or get the right consultant around him to advise him.
Correct.
And probably at that time he was just thinking, oh, he could do it himself. Let him save a few grand here and there to be able to do it. Now the costs and the missed opportunity of that transaction, now he has to still keep it for the next, 5 to 10 years.
Correct. And if you have a look at what even, property has done over that period of time and potentially what it's going to do, his opportunity cost of having that money locked up in this site just to maybe make a profit in, 8 years, 7 years time, or whenever it's right for it to be developed, the opportunity cost of those funds is significant. He's probably, in terms of that particular site, I think at the time he paid $2 million. The opportunity cost of that is probably going to be another $2 million that he's missed out, even just from passively investing it into property, not even without developing it. So that is, for him, it's those missed opportunities, which are also, he's in a fortunate position that he was quite successful and an entrepreneur, and he's made a lot of money out of his business, that he wasn't in a position to be forced to be able to have to develop that property or be forced into a sale position in a fire sale. Otherwise, he would have been in real strife. And a lot of properties aren't in the same financial position that he was in.
Okay, interesting.